Okay, roll call.
Chisel. Neal.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Luce.
Present.
Zittergrun.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Okay, is there anything from the public anybody from the public that wishes to make any comments on anything that are not on the agenda? I don't see anybody, at least from my screen. Employee recognition. I think Wanda's doing the employee recognition tonight.
Yes, I am. Okay, so this is the time of year we always do the employee recognitions for those that have kind of like milestone anniversary dates, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. So thank you, all of you, for all the time that you have served and being here. It's very much appreciated. Before I get started, though, I would just like to give a shout out to all the city employees for everything that they've done this year. It's been a challenging year, and they've really stepped up to the plate, and they've made changes that we've asked them to, and done a lot of different things trying to navigate what's been happening this past year, and we have had 0 complaints about it, and so we really appreciate everything that everyone's done throughout this whole year. Okay. Deb Hagensick is our utility billing clerk. She has been here for 20 years. She's not here this evening, but she's been with us 20 years. Zach Current is in our fire department. He started in the street department, and then he went to the fire department in 2017. He's been here 5 years. Kevin Nelson in our street department has been here 20 years. Jeremy Carlin with the water department has been here 20 years. Andy Cruzy with the wastewater treatment plant has been with us 20 years. Pete Numedal has been here 15 years. He started in the street department and then went to wastewater treatment plant in August of 2018. Mark Whalen at our library has been here 10 years. Kristen Torresdahl at our library director, has been here 15 years. I don't know, Kristen, did you get signed in?
Yep, she's in.
Okay, anyway, she has been here 15 years. And John Panko, he's with our library. He's the IT director at the library. He's been here 30 years. He actually started as a part-time dispatcher, and he did that for 5 years. And then he was with our police department until 2016 when he went to the library. Which brings us to the police department, who are here. Chris McClellan, a police officer, has been here 10 years, and he's not here. Brent Parker has been here with us 5 years. He's our assistant chief. Casey Smith is here. He's been here 5 years. If you want to come up. I would shake your hand, but I'd get in lots of trouble.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Jim Frost, who I think you all know retired just recently. He was here 10 years, and so I have mailed his pin to him. Anyway, thank you to everybody on this list, and again, thank you to all our city employees this past year. It's been like I said, it's been a challenging year, and they've all been wonderful. So,
Thanks, Wanda, and thanks to all that are there. Okay, consent agenda. Hello, hello, hello.
The security detail is leaving the meeting. All right, consent agenda consists of minutes of the December 7, 2020 regular meeting, claims, Resolution 3145, CARES Act reimbursement, August to December 2020, Resolution 3146, revising Resolution 3130, CARES Act reimbursement, change order number 2, Ridge Road Improvement Project, Phase 2, in the amount of $23,662.81. Change order number 1, Quarry Street Stormwater Sidewalk Improvements, in the amount of $12,944.90. Change order number 1, Court Street Broadway Street Improvements, $751.13. Resolution 3148, approving 2080 agreement with Decorah Community School District. Consider professional services agreement for 2021 East Main Street Improvement Project, Erdman Engineering. Consider professional services agreement for 2021 Valley View Drive Improvement Project, Erdman Engineering. And Resolution 3149, a resolution setting a date on a purchase and development agreement with Three Chicks Rental LLC for city land, January 4, 2021 at 5:45 p.m.
Make a motion for the approval of consent agenda.
I'll
Motion
second
made
it,
by
but I've got
Carlson.
a couple of questions for our city engineer. Jeremy, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Items I and J on here, when are we going to be up to speed and be able to do these in-house?
Yeah, good question. Very soon, hopefully. So one comment on these is that this is just for design. And so it's actually about half of what a normal fee would be. We are planning to do the construction administration, pay apps, construction observation internally for these as we get Tom up to speed and able to help me out. So this is probably, I'd call this one of the transition projects where we're going to still seek some design assistance, but the construction observation and administration we would do internally. So we're doing about half of these internally. That would normally be third-party services as we work towards building up capacity to do projects like these completely internally.
I would add too that some of this work proposed in these two agreements is for topography and survey work, which we're not able to do.
Something that we should probably discuss at a meeting, if we can try and get a 2080 with the survey crew with the county or something.
Is anyone else struggling to hear what's happening at City Hall?
I can
And Jeremy
see
has
that,
talked about, whether he or Tom could get certified in survey. That takes a special license, but he has talked about that. Early on, we did talk about partnering with the county, and that is certainly something that we'll continue to explore.
Okay, thank you.
We're hearing Chad fine, but Randy, you're
Yeah.
gonna have to get closer to the mic.
Randy asked if it was possible to either get our staff certified on survey work, which takes a special license, or could we do a 2080 agreement with the county or another jurisdiction? And certainly we can look at those things.
So we had a motion. Did we have a second?
Yes.
Yes, Chisel seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah. I think Ross, you had brought up potentially taking out the minutes to be able to talk about how minutes are entered into the record.
And then Chad clarified that we can just have that discussion now before we vote.
Right.
That in looking at the minutes in Dropbox, I don't see any errors at all. But I do just want to note the fact that when we speak, nothing is transcribed, right? A general concept of what happens within the meeting is presented in the minutes. But when people ask to have their letters read into record, it goes into minutes. We don't do that for anything else. Most things are put into Dropbox and referenced. So in 2021, I would like to move that staff policy is that we reference letters and put them in Dropbox, just like all the other secondary information that we receive. But unless we're going to be quoted verbatim in what we say in a meeting, perhaps in reference to a letter, I don't feel it's right that the letter is read into the record verbatim as well, not just referenced in Dropbox like everything else.
So Ross, this is Chad. Just for clarification, when you said you move, I think the appropriate action would be that if council wants to modify, how things are received and recorded or whatever, then that really should probably be amended into your rules and procedures document.
And I would object to that. I think that if people send in a letter and they want it read into the record, we have the time to do that.
It's not that. I agree with Ross in that what the problem is when you read our minutes, which I think is a general problem in general. There's getting list. It doesn't reflect a full council discussion. So it's not arbitrary, but it's up to who's ever taking minutes to decide what they're going to write by what council members say. So when I've read through the minutes, I've been on the council for a year now, and it's actually been bothering me forever. So I'm really glad that Ross brought this up. It becomes what I consider to be a perspective view of what happened at the council, as opposed to a record keeping task of what happened at the council. So I would prefer we went to bare bones minutes, which would not include the reading, the letter verbatim, but a record of what happens, right? So letter is read into the record. To see full letter, go to Dropbox. Neil responds, see video. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes council members' comments are in the minutes, sometimes they are not. And I guess for more transparency, we either ask that the full meeting is totally 100% transcribed in the minutes, or it's very bare bones and brief always.
That doesn't take away, the letters can be read at the city council meeting. That doesn't make any difference that way. It's how they're recorded in the minutes.
Exactly. That's how I feel. They should be read.
Yes.
But I'm hearing that it's more than just whether the letters or comments were read in and then written into the minutes. It's more about who said what. Certainly Wanda, as city clerk, can simply say, John Q. Citizen submitted a letter on file in the clerk's office with a note.
And then
about
councilperson Hadley responded to the letter, and none of his comments were entered into the record. So that's where I feel it's inequitable. I don't have a problem reading things, but if we're not going to have a true transcription of what happened, then I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be transcribed in full into the minutes as well. So we don't have to discuss it any further, Chad. I take your point about procedural things in the manual and whatnot. But as a just for other council people's edification and the mayor, I don't agree with the way it was handled previously.
Well, we have to update our procedures every January, correct? That's
well,
the
you
time
don't
we do.
have to. I ask you to. And I certainly do it every 2 years when you have new council. But yeah, that's been standard practice.
So and how does that happen? I know that Steve worked on it last time, and Johanna, how does that get assigned?
Well, so last time was a 2-year rewrite, so it was a little more comprehensive, right? I can put it on the agenda in January, and you can just start looking at it. If you want to appoint it to a committee, go for it. If not, if there's just 1 or 2 things you want to change, you do that at the council desk, and it's done. So.
And all of our meetings are recorded and have been for a number of years, and they're posted on YouTube. So you can go back and find and watch and hear what everybody said.
Right.
Which
so
is
there's no
why
reason to transcribe into the minutes.
Yeah, which is why I would totally push for a very bare bone minutes and a push towards getting people to actually listen to the tapes.
Well, no, Yeah, I mean, so the city clerk is charged with, certainly the law says you have to record the action and you have to record the role for each action. Those are the legal requirements. You have to record what the council acted on. Beyond that, it's really up to the city clerk to, determine what is germane to the action item that's being discussed.
How about for January, we all ready to take a look at those rules, see where that would fit in, how that would fit in, see if there's anything else that has to be adjusted, and we can pick it up at that time.
If I
There
can
was
just
a-
say something quickly here.
Sure.
When I prepared these minutes as a rule, I don't try to put any more in there than I have to. There is a historical record, though, for anyone that's had to go back and look for minutes and find out what happened 10 years ago. It is nice to have more than just, this is the action that was taken. I mean, if you've never had to look back and find something for someone, you wouldn't understand that. And I put more in these minutes than normally I do, just simply because of the issue that it is, and that it is a big issue in this community. So there is more in there. Now, if you want just bare bones minutes, hey, that's perfectly okay with me. It'll take me, a whole lot less time to prepare minutes if that's what you want. But it is not going to really benefit anybody who has to look back later and find out. And you don't have to have, anything, a transcript of the minutes. That's not appropriate either. But I try to capture the most important points that were made, and I tried to do that at this last meeting, as I do with every meeting.
And I am not belittling your work at all. And thank you for the minutes. But to my point, and this is going on much longer than I had thought necessary, but very little of what any of us said are actually recorded. The actual verbiage of what someone else said, who's not on the council and may not even live in the city of Decorah, are posted verbatim in the minutes. So I just feel it's inequitable. I've had a kind of a problem with it, things being read into the record. We don't read contracts into the minutes. We don't read anything else into the minutes. Everything else is referred to in Dropbox. I just would like to suggest uniformity.
So what I'll also suggest again that prior to January, go in and look at the rules of procedure, but perhaps if you get a chance, go back and look at minutes from any different time and just see if there's things in there that it helped to be able to showcase so that you have an idea. I do identify with the fact when you go back to look things up, it's really hard unless you have some kind of a focal point as far as what you're looking for. But why don't we bring it up again in January?
There was another item on the minutes that was requested to have the liaison to the task force we appointed last time be on this agenda, and it's not. So I'm curious to know, what do we plan to do with when that item will come before the council?
That one, that I can speak to in the fact that we're going to be talking about that at the work session on the 28th, and that we could have discussion on that at that time. That's why it wasn't on the agenda this time.
I think on the 20th, I agree. I mean, I think on the 28th, it's fine. We can, as we talk about the MEU, I think one of the things we should discuss is who should be appointed onto that task group. Chad, can we appoint, I mean, does that require council action to appoint someone, or can that just be done at the work session?
Not at the work session.
No, that would either require council action or the mayor can just appoint somebody.
Okay.
Depends on how you want to go.
You'll have enough time to discuss it at that point, and then prior to when they would first meet.
You'll have a work session and a regular meeting before the task force will even meet, so.
Yeah. So we'll be okay that way. Okay, so I have a motion and a second.
What I'm speaking to is the request was to be placed on the next agenda. And that's what I'm seeing not being followed through.
only that, the mayor and, well, I work with Chad on it too. There is an option, and you have done that before, where you have two council people that do put something on the agenda, which didn't come forth this time. So we make up the agenda in the draft. And so my guess is that it would have been if you wanted to have it on the, and it was a request. And so because we were going to meet at a work session on the 28th, I chose not to put it on. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. I'll take roll call.
Carlson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Zittergren,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Okay, consider resolution 3147, a resolution approving the purchase of real estate, approving the real estate contract, and authorizing the mayor to sign for 701 Maple Avenue.
So the attached real estate purchase agreement is for the city to consider purchasing and acquiring the property at 701 Maple Street for $40,000. We've talked about this in a couple of different settings. The proposal that I put forth is to acquire the property and abate longstanding nuisance on that property by either working with a developer to demolish the building and redevelop into some type of affordable housing goal, or to make the property available to a developer that would demolish the property and redevelop. And the next action then beyond this one is to develop that RFP. I will let the council know. Even today, I had another phone call from an investor developer that is very interested in talking to the city about that property. I did secure funding from Northeast Iowa Regional Housing Trust Fund for assistance in demolition, if that's the route we go. But I would like to put forth an RFP as to how we move forward after we acquire, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that on the 28th during the work session. But for now, authorization to enter into the real estate agreement. We would still have some legal work to do, a title opinion, update the abstract. We need to visually inspect the property. We would look to do that here within the next week to 10 days. And then whenever City Attorney Anderson is able to pull all those legal documents together, we would move to closing with council's consent and approval.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 3147 as presented.
Luce would second that.
Discussion?
I think this is a worthwhile endeavor for the city to be involved in, and I would hope that we would consider continuing this process until the other properties that may be in similar situation would be taken care of.
Any other discussion?
This is Steve Zittergren here. I've just talked to a few of the neighbors down near this property in question who are grateful that the city's taking action on it. And so, I think that it seems like a good thing in this case. As a general rule, I'm not so sure that it should be a regular pattern for the city to be the agent, sort of serving as an intermediary here, because as Chad's sort of told us a couple times, there seem to be developers who are very interested in this project. And I think in an ideal world, that would happen without the city intervening too much. That said, we have access to these demolition grants, and I think that maybe makes sense for us to serve as an intermediary in this case. So I'll be in favor of this.
Okay,
I guess I would just kind of echo Steve's. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I hope this doesn't somehow encourage people to let their let their properties go, thinking that the city might buy it or encourage that behavior. I think it's kind of a slippery slope, and I would have to agree with Steve that I don't necessarily like having to be the agent in this case. But if the neighbors are in favor, and I think that we can hopefully do some sort of project to include affordable housing, then I'm in favor of it.
Well, I think the property itself is indicative of a lack of taking care of. And Chad, can you reiterate what Todd had said about what they had to do over the weekend?
Well, just over the weekend, they had a frozen water meter burst on them and filled the basement with water. So,
And it was at night, so
Yeah.
they had to go down and go in and work with it. So
and
Yeah,
you know,
Chad,
this is
can I ask
Chad.
you-
Just to address Steve and Andy's comments, you know, this is probably the city has a lot of tools at its disposal to deal with nuisance properties, abandoned houses, things like that. This is probably one of the more aggressive, right? But, you know, Wanda certainly before me, and I've been dealing with this property for a long, long time. And like I said, this is a pretty aggressive approach to abate a nuisance. But we have lots and lots of other tools. They just take, you know, time, staff time, city attorney, et cetera, et cetera. So,
As a neighbor of a property that's got holes in the roof and in the foundation where critters are going in and out of, I would encourage the city to consider being more forthright to helping people see that if they are not going to take care of their properties and they're not using them, then they need to be improved for the public benefit.
okay, any other further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Motion pass. Consider approval and certification of 2020 residential tax abatement applications. First one is Maureen Larson, 412 Winnebago Street, remodeling. Maybe I'll let you talk on these, Chad.
Yeah, so just two more as they kind of trickle in here at the end of the year, meeting that January 1 assessment deadline for the county assessor. I've got two others. Maureen Larson, 412 Winnebago, has made improvements to her existing home in the amounts shown. Looks like the improvements or value added was in excess of $80,000. And then Quandall Investment Properties for 110 Highland Drive. Again, single-family improvements to an existing structure. Looks like in excess of $50,000 or more for value added to that one. I attest to the council that both these projects are eligible and should be afforded the residential tax abatement as your program stipulates.
I'd move for approval of the applications.
Second.
For discussion? Seeing none?
Just a quick question, Mayor. Sorry, this is Steve Zittergrun
okay.
again. Thanks. Now, could someone describe to me the process where we are confirming that these, obviously when someone builds a new house, it's obvious that they built a new house. When it's more of an interior remodel, what is our certification process of the work's being done as they're claiming it is? Are we appraising it, or how does that work, Chad?
Yeah, so your residential tax abatement program does stipulate eligibility for improvements to existing residential structures as long as those improvements increase the taxable value by more than 10% of the current value. While the applicant will attest that they put in X dollars to improvement, that's really probably more of a market value. But as long as we think we're significantly above that 10%, we will present them to the city council as eligible. At the end of the day, it's up to the county assessor to make those determinations. So if somebody certifies to the city council that they have a $200,000 home and they put more than $20,000 worth of work into that home, we look at that as face value and say, okay, you appear to meet the eligibility guidelines in our plan, but at the end of the day, when we turn those over to the county assessor, he has to look at that and say, well, you bought $20,000 worth of carpet and cabinets and added a bathroom or whatever, but your home only assessed at $10,000 more or 5% more or something like that. That maneuver and those calculations are ultimately at the end of the day up to him. I'm sorry, Steve. So just not everything that somebody does to their home adds assessed value. It certainly all adds market value, but not everything adds assessed value. So we advise applicants to, overreach that 10%.
Thank you, Chad. Now you're getting into this sort of a second question I was going to ask, but I guess I was more interested in verification of interior remodeling. I mean, we're not peeking into windows. Is that, I mean, how are we just accepting on faith these claims that these, massive remodels are happening? I'm just curious about that verification procedure.
Yeah, so we'll certainly do a drive-through or a drive-by or whatever. I mean, yeah, we peek in the window. A lot of times, because, to reach some of the numbers that we're seeing on this report, people are adding a room addition, or they're adding a stall to their garage with a bedroom above, or whatever. So they've been through the planning and zoning or the Board of Adjustment process, and that gives us a level of verification as well, right? If they're going to infringe on their setbacks or add square footage to their home, a lot of times that will go through certainly Board of Adjustment, if not planning and zoning at the same time.
And then that follow-up question I hinted at, does this process trigger a new assessment from the county? Like, do they see this list and then know that they need to probably update their assessments on these properties?
He will do that, absolutely. Yeah, and through this process, if he grants the abatement to a property, there's some things he has to do, because in this case for existing homes, the abatement's only on the improved value, not the existing value. And so he's got to separate out what the existing value is, and that remains taxable. But then he abates whatever the increased valuation is, and so there's a lot of work that he has to do to kind of separate out and designate those two numbers.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
Okay, consider board and commission appointments. Tree board, 3 seats, and as of this afternoon, I believe all 3 are willing to continue to serve. And communications utility board, 1 seat still open.
Yeah, and I don't have any leads on that communications utility board, Mayor. That one's still kind of wide open.
Okay. We need a vote on the tree board.
No, I did not put those names on here because as of press time, I did not have confirmation that any of those folks would seek reappointment.
Okay, that sounds fine. We can put it on the January one. Okay, city manager, department head, and council reports.
Mayor, this is Chad. So I have 2 things, and actually listed them on the agenda, that I would like to cover under my report before I turn it over to the other department heads and then the city council. The first one is just an update, maybe a year-end report on the council's goal-setting session from February. Remember back then, several months ago, there were 3 kind of key areas that the council worked through in a strategic planning session. I've given you this information in the last couple of meetings, but I did want to just kind of briefly run through kind of a year-end recap, as I said. So there were 3 key areas to your goal-setting session: budget and finance, community-based goals, and organizational effectiveness. And my report's in your packet, so I'm not going to read it to you, but I did want to just kind of highlight a couple of, I think, significant accomplishments. Under budgetary and finance, priority task number 1, hire a building and zoning administrator. That goal was completed in the hiring of Greg Swanson on December 1st. The sustainability plan, that goal was completed with the adoption of the plan in February of 2020. Street maintenance, repairs, and street improvements, that's kind of ongoing, but the council did approve the fiscal 22 street improvement plan in November. Communications work is ongoing. Under community-based goals, you can see that there are some updates or work in progress. Childcare, business growth, and hotel motel finances, we've not really had discussion on any of those things this year or as of late. So I would draw your attention to those. Item number 5, downtown, the Downtown Resource Center. We did have a assessment weekend and did receive their final report, and we are working through an action plan on that. City Luther relationship. I would just note that the mayor and I have a meeting in January with Luther leadership, and that the council did seat the MEU task force with their first meeting coming in January of 2021. Under organizational effectiveness, on the priority task number 1 on the staff salary matrix, Wanda's done an awful lot of work on reviewing that matrix, and I've interjected when she's had some questions. I think we're going to propose that that's probably a 2-phase or maybe even a 3-phase modification to that plan. It's pretty complex. There are a lot of interrelated parts. So more on that to come, but we do have some work that we think will present to you in a phase 1 modification. And then finally, down at the end on the CIP, the Capital Improvement Planning, I have been working with our financial advisor with D.A. Davidson on reviewing that and setting up a schedule, so hopefully more language on that at budget time or shortly thereafter.
Well, Chad, thank you for the communication, because the only things that we didn't touch were communication, and kudos to you for keeping our goals in front of us.
You're welcome. The second thing I had under my report is just an update and maybe a response on the sidewalk project, sidewalk improvement project up in the Bruning subdivision, or just sidewalks in general. So at the last meeting, it was made known that a local attorney had sent a letter to several council members, but had not copied the mayor or city staff on that letter. I did receive a copy of that letter, and I'll address that here in a second. But during that discussion, I was asked to provide kind of an overview and timeline on sidewalks in general, and maybe Bruning sidewalks, Bruning subdivision sidewalks specifically. That timeline and historical perspective is in the Dropbox for the council or anybody listening at home to take a look at. So, and I'm not going to walk through this either. I know almost everybody on Zoom here can read. The first couple of things, though, that I would like to note is that in March of 1998, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the preliminary plat for the subdivision. In November of 1998, P&Z approved the final plat with some conditions. Acceptable conditions, covenants, and restrictions should be submitted and include provisions for the construction of sidewalks in accordance with the location for sidewalks in the final plat within 18 months following the approval of a compliance certificate for the primary residential structures. A provision that the owner of multiple abutting lots construct the sidewalks as required for all such lots within 18 months of a compliance certificate. And upon the council's determination, but no later than the issuance of compliance certificates for 75% of the lots, that a sidewalk construction plan would be put forth. On December 15th, 1998, the final plat was approved by the City Council. In March of 1999, consent to platting and covenants was signed by the owner and the developer. In April of 1999, a resolution and development agreement was approved by the City Council. And then I jumped to 2016 with a series of either street committee meetings or planning and zoning commission meetings where sidewalks in general and the Bruning subdivision sidewalks were discussed. And I provide a little narrative with each of those meetings in terms of the extent of the discussion. In some cases, it might have been a review of the administrative sidewalk policy It might have been discussion on SUDAS and complete streets. It might have been discussion on updating and amending the city's comprehensive plan at different levels of either P&Z or city council or committee discussions. And so that information, just from a historical perspective, is in your packet because the council had asked for that information. In reference to the letter from a local attorney, we are still working through that at the staff and city attorney level, but a couple of things I would note. First question raised by the attorney was, or note that the plans include tearing out private driveways, including portions outside of the city right-of-way, rebuilding them, and especially assessing the cost to private properties. And the question posed was, would that be legal? And I would just note that some driveway removal is necessary to achieve proper ADA grades and for constructability. Extra driveway length is needed to maintain proper slopes for both ADA on sidewalks and proper slope on driveways. Driveway work is proposed to be part of the project. The city anticipates acquiring temporary construction easements or may consider other methods to improve those driveways. Temporary construction easements are something that we're familiar with. We acquired several temporary construction easements for Locust Road for some of the same reasons, for constructability, for ADA grades, and maybe other utility infrastructure requirements. And again, the city might have other options to look at there if we are not able to secure temporary easements. We could push the sidewalk to the street line or the curb line, but there are unique challenges with that. Question number 2 posed by the attorney. We're still working through a review of his comments. Same with question number 3. We'll assess that. We'll provide a more succinct report for the council. And then finally, in response to question number 4 regarding other alternatives for sidewalk, such as painting a walking lane on one shoulder of the existing street. And I would just say there that we've had city engineering staff look at that, and just painting a stripe is not recommended for a variety of reasons. Probably the most important, though, is that given the cross-section slopes of that street currently, painting a line would not meet ADA requirements for a pedestrian walkway. That's all that I think I would have at this time under that report. I would note that all department heads' reports are in your Dropbox in written form, as has been our case here, our practice through COVID, so I would draw your attention to those. There are several department heads online if you have specific questions for them. Otherwise, I will sit down and be quiet.
Okay, Wanda?
She has nothing to report.
Okay, I know that Todd wanted to speak, and I believe, yeah. Todd Heidi?
Yes, Todd here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. As I got a couple things tonight, as I've mentioned earlier in the meeting, we had our first frozen water meter. Like I say, every winter when temperatures start to drop, reminding all residents to check crawl spaces, basements, utility rooms, whatever, for adequate heat. It doesn't take much to freeze a water meter. Sometimes it causes damage, which can be very extensive. And homeowners have to remember that if a water meter gets frozen, they are required to replace that at their cost. And their water meters are getting extremely expensive. Second thing is we've had a few calls in the last couple of weeks as far as what the city tests for, what we don't test for, how often, and everything else. As far as maybe lead and copper, nitrates, anything else. But just putting out a reminder there that all of our results are put on our consumer confidence report or the water quality report. A resident can find that if you go to the city website, click on the water department and go to the information tab. All of the water reports are there from 1999 to date of 2020. And there has all of our results and what the limits are and what our results are and anything else. If you'd like a hard copy, you can get those at City Hall, the library, or at the water department, or definitely if you have questions or concerns, please call the water department and we would be happy to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Let's see, anything else from department heads? I don't think so.
Sure, this is Chopper here.
Oh, thank
Just
you.
wanted to give a quick update here. Over the weekend, I have upgraded all of our VM environment, that's our virtualized servers and things like that, to the latest, greatest version. I have also did the last phase of our disaster recovery plan for the city. So we do have an additional tape drive that we purchased and have implemented for disaster recovery. It's all connected and online.
Great.
Do we know
Thank
if our request for proposal went out for?
Say that again?
He's asking if the RFP went out for fiber to the premise
Oh, there you go.
for a public-private partnership. That RFP did go out. As of today, we have no responses back. That RFP was mailed directly to several vendors. We also posted it on the Iowa League of Cities classified section on their website. I think the deadline, if I remember right, might be like January 10th or 15th, 8th or something like that is the deadline for a response.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's start. Ross, I've got you up in the corner.
Nobody puts baby in the corner. Sorry. Bad dad jokes. Christmas starts
That was
now.
bad. That was bad.
All the movie fun. Full swing Christmas. Thank you everybody for supporting small business and for keeping our community healthy, both economically and physically. We've had no problems with masking, or people have been very interested in hand sanitizing as well. So that's wonderful. And so happy holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate, coming out of darkness here. To all of you, happy health in 21. We're all looking forward to better times. I did get a chance to meet with Jeremy and meet the new guys at the street department, which is wonderful. And we discussed the ADA transition plan, continuing work in 2021, and incorporating a mobility plan to continue working on connectivity of sidewalks so that there aren't holes in our community where you can't walk as much as possible. And we also discussed funding and being able to do the work, more of the work in-house, as Randy pointed to. We have the technology, we have the crew. Now we can work on making it an internal goal. That's it. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Randy.
Okay, I got a couple of things. We'll have our budget workshop. I'm scheduling that for Tuesday, January 19th, which would be our second meeting in January. We traditionally start at 4 o'clock. I would respectfully ask that everybody on the council come down here. We can safely set the room up with spacing so that we can hear each other better and stay on task. We've got 3 department heads that have offices in this building. They can zoom in if they'd like. We would have a total of, right now I'm counting about 15 people that would be in this room, and we can more than safely distance so that we can get through this process a lot easier. The last thing is, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year, and we'll see you next week, I guess.
Randy, are we going to have our budget books ahead of time so we can pre-read?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep,
Thank you.
They're finishing them up now.
Okay, Steve Luce.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Jeremy, the status of the yard waste site?
Yeah, in terms of just what's going on out there, or
Is it closed?
oh, no, it is open. Remains to be open under our extended hours, 7 days a week during daylight hours. Certainly less active than normal, but still seeing a fair amount of use, and so we'd like to keep it open as long as we can. So, last year we left it open through the winter, and it seemed to work okay. I think we'll try that again this year.
Thank you. I have nothing else, Mayor, except to wish everyone seasonal salutations and much joy as things start to get more light each day.
Yes. Thanks, Steve. Emily?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just give the Sustainability Commission report. They met last week on Wednesday for their regular monthly meeting. They did a really nice overview of what they've accomplished and continue to remind themselves. They're a group of people, I will say, that kind of kicks themselves for not doing more. And I'm glad they reminded themselves that they've really only been really doing anything since August. So they've done quite a lot. I think one of the exciting things they're starting to talk about with city departments and with the county is how to think about downtown recycling. So I'm anticipating in 2021 us seeing that happen. So that's exciting. Further communication about a communications plan. And then they are also trying to figure out how to work with P&Z a little bit with the Woodwell study in light of the P&Z discussions on the Dalem property, and what is the kind of information that P&Z and the council would be interested in knowing prior to making any decision about the rezoning of that land. So I think they're working with Woodwell. They may reach out to council members to say, like, do you have specific questions? But if there are questions that want to get directed there that way, there are quite a few goals related to floodlands, flood mitigation, and things within the sustainability plan. And so they, I think they even put in a call to Chad. I think you've been working with them, just trying to get what are the questions that P&Z and the council might have related to that land. Other than that, they did their year in review and are looking forward to setting the next year's goals per our timeline that we laid out when we did the plan. Other than that, I've been so excited. So thank you, giant thank you to Decorah. I think I've been shopping every weekend downtown and the stores are filled and it feels so great to support local. And I think our community really is rallying around our stores, and that's just lovely to see. Other than that, have a very safe and happy holiday season to everyone out there. And as I think some people mentioned, tomorrow's daylight is going to be longer than today's. So go daylight. And Randy, thank you for proposing that. As long as I am not in quarantine or feel highly COVID exposed, as I have several times this fall, I'd be more than happy to meet in person. So.
Thanks, Emily. Andy Carlson.
Yeah, we're gonna try and have a brief utility meeting here after this, so maybe take a 5-minute break. Health and happiness to everyone if I don't see you before the new year. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. And just looking forward to waving adios to this dumpster fire that we call 2020. So, all right.
Thanks, Andy. Steve Zittergren.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just quickly say that in the last week, my children have seen the fire department and police department bring Santa Claus to see them. They've listened to you read a book. They've gotten book bundles from our library. We've all sat around a fire that the Parks and Rec program made possible. And it's just been a great week being reminded that, and these are all things that if the various organizations in charge of making them happen hadn't made them happen, no one would have complained or said that they weren't doing something they should be doing. These were things that happened because so many of our city workers have servants' hearts, and we're so grateful for it. It makes our community better, and it's made our holidays more special. So thank you very much. Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Steve. Kirk Johnson.
Nothing, Mayor, but Merry Christmas to all.
Okay, I think I've gone all the way around the table.
Mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor, I'm gonna jump back here. Wanda is raising her hand. She's got something else she'd like to.
Then, just to make sure she's got a microphone, please. Because we can't hear from, if she could step up to the microphone, that
It's
would.
on.
There you go, thank you. Now it's not on. Thank you.
She had something else to say, but I know I'm going to interject here and say that we have the draft of the audit in, and we'll work on finalizing that. So one of the meetings in January, we need to get the audit in front of the council.
Yep. I just want to make sure everyone understands that Randy really was joking. The budget books are not close to ready. I am working diligently on that, but it will be a few weeks yet before those books come out. We try very hard to get them out about at least a week ahead of time. And I see no reason that won't happen, but I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that they're not coming out next week. So anyway, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I have been meeting with, excuse me, Jim Martin Schramm and Chad and I have worked with just general guidelines for the task force, only in the process part and what that looks like for the first meeting. Chad's been working with the scheduling piece, which is a challenge, but it's coming along. And so it's been good to meet with those two. Let's see, I think this job is not easy. And I appreciate all the work that you guys do. I'd encourage you to put your books, any of your stuff that you have, put them on a shelf for a few days. Let it go, enjoy your family, and make memories as you can at home. I so appreciate all the hard work that you all put in and hope you have a happy holiday. Now with that, if there's no other business, we'll adjourn and go. Thank you.